Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where it's about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Season 1, Episode 9 of Warrior. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, obviously, we get a little build up at the beginning between the showdown between Lee Young and Assam, and I love that, all of Chinatown shuts down for this. Everyone pours in because the moment Lee and Bill, they're like, where is everybody? Why is Chinatown so quiet? Even the other people there are like, yeah, we're here because the other people, other two members of the squad are already there. It's like, shouldn't you be on patrol? It's like, why? Everyone in Chinatown's here looking for this fight. So, but this fight isn't just it can end in a fight to the death, but the overarching thing is the moment the person loses their sash, that's when it's the loser dies. So it's I guess the easiest way to do it is to kill the person in the fight. Like I said, I am so curious. I brought it up last episode. How would Bolo have fared against, Leon, because those would have been more comparable comparisons because of what Atoy brings up later on, that, jumping ahead to it, that, Assam lost the fight. But I mean, he was it was pretty evenly matched, but then I start being a little it was tit for tat, but Assam was still coming out on top. It could even tell it was kind of shocking Leon, because that fight was kind of going its way until that last start of the fight. Then Leon started whooping that ass. I mean, they started hitting each other hard. Then you could tell Leon was kind of stumbling by the end, but as Atoy says, it's he had more of a purpose. Assam was fighting this just to fight it because he kind of had no choice. I even love before the fight, it's my dad won't say it, and I want to go ahead and say this before I forget not to say it to you. So thank you. He's you didn't have to do this. And Asam's I didn't. He's come on, man. You don't mess up the moment by being a dick about it. By bringing the truth into it. I did love that. But, it's Assam didn't have a choice in this, but he still went through with it. But that was the only reason why he was doing this. There was no bailing out of this. There was no getting injured and getting out of it. He's also prideful. He wasn't going to back down from a fight, especially with his sister involved, because he's going to fight this and win it just to make a point to her. But Lee Yong has every reason to win this fight too, because he's doing it even more so for Mai Ling. It's because I do it because I care about her and we're in this together. I want to see her succeed. I want her to take the throne at the top of the Long Z like she's meant to be, like she's been aiming for. Penelope found out about the fight because of Jacob, because he brought her the poster, and so she shows up in the fight. And it's at that time Assam was kind of winning, and maybe if he had grabbed for because he had knocked Leong out for a little bit, but then the moment he goes over and tries to grab it, Leong immediately got up. It's no. He got his second win, and he ended up coming out on top. Like I said, don't get it twisted. Leong was kind of still wobbly himself, but he ended up kind of his need to win outweighed. He had more of that need and purpose to fight, and Assam was missing that, and that's why he lost. And he even admits later on to Atoy, it's yeah. I do think it's beautiful that she's the one, because despite their beef and everything, she's because he was drowning his sorrows last episode, she still looks at the potential that he has. She even references, obviously what this country is. This country is literally built off the backbones of foreigners. Even, there, except for the people who were already here first, everyone else has come to this country, whether their circumstances may have brought them here, whether it's white people, whether it's black people, whether it's, Asian people, whatever's brought them to this country, it's simply this country is built off of foreigners, and she was even saying why should we be any different? So she's eventually it will be the point where Chinese people can own land here. And I'm so that kind of fits into what I was bringing up last episode of what Atoy's long game is. She's buying up land because I think she does want it to be land that not only she can own, but Chinese, but she's probably trying to buy up as much property as she can, and that way everyone can have their own land and it can't be disputed, because when the time comes that we can own land, it'll probably be in other people's names until they can transfer it over to these Chinese family and people, just so that it can be in their names. And no, not even the government, despite what they're trying to do, which they would most likely fight against it, and other people would fight against it, but no matter what, they're trying to set it in stone so that it can never be taken from them once it's there. But because for Atoy, it's it's not about us being accepted, it's about the future generation. She's planning that far ahead, and she's like, one day I hope to show it. So I guess what she's fighting for, she hopes to build it. And then, like, I don't know if she is still planning on later on down the route of making Assam a part of that. Like, she has a right hand girl now. Like I said, I think she's more so the person she's going to turn to for this rather than Assam anymore. But or is she implying like, hey, you will be a part of that? Or I hope that I can show you when I built it myself. Like, I don't want my fight doesn't necessarily have to be your fight, but it has to be something that's worth fighting for. But yeah. Because I guess in my head, I thought like, oh man, like I was like, there's no way they're going to kill Awesome. Because I was like, oh, Leong, obviously he can die. But there is another picture I've seen of Awesome and Leong. And I don't know if this is something that probably might come up in the season finale, or it's most likely something from season 2, maybe. But I've seen a picture of them that doesn't match this fight. That I was like, okay, so he survives this situation, at least for now. So I guess the two of them are going to duke it out. I don't know I doubt it's going to be next episode. Could be, but it's most likely going to be some point in the future. So I was like, okay, so Leong is going to survive this, but I'm like, how is Assam going to get spared? Because I thought the fight was going to be like, right, when the time came, like Assam wasn't going to kill Leong. Once again, he just thinks of like, oh, that's My Ling's guy, but he doesn't know like, oh, that's her guy, so he doesn't know about their connection. So I don't know if that would change anything, but either way, the only reason why the fight ended the way it did is because Bill fired his gun in the air. It's like, right, you would assume out of anyone, Bill would be like, oh, let the Chinamen kill each other, blah, 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 right? For him to step in like that, I think kind of speaks volumes. It's like, right, you're the one that stopped the fight, Because obviously Penelope yelled out when she was like, no, when she almost thought Assam died. And obviously Bill's going to keep her secret about her being here in Chinatown. But it's like, right, like, he might not be as bad as we think. Like, once again, Bill can be a good, decent person when he wants to be, but it's just like deep, 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 deep down all that bullshit of his, so. But it's like, yeah, he stepped in and did the right thing, because if it wasn't for him, Assam would have been dead, because My Ling gave the go-ahead. It's like, right, my brother accepted this, I told him, and that's why I said goodbye to him, because, like, sacrifices have to be made. With what I'm trying to accomplish, you can't let feelings and emotion get in the way. This is what it is. This is about power, and I don't know, once again, maybe her positioning is, I'm going to do a lot more for our people, and sacrifices have to be made, and by being head of the Long Z, I can change everything for everyone, and if it means sacrificing my brother, I appreciate what you've done for me, I appreciate that you wanted to come here for me, but at the end of the day, I'm not that save helpless girl anymore. Back to the point that I brought up, I think last episode as well, about how Penelope said a few episodes back, women, we can save ourselves, we don't need, like, knight in shining armor. Not her words exactly, but it's that point of like, right, we can save ourselves. And I mean, to be fair, she has done a lot to be in a position she's in right now, because she gets sworn in as the new leader of the Long Z. Shang didn't like it, because it's like, right, you crept into Long Z's bed, and you've also crept into Leong, but she's like, oh, no, you want me to prove a point if I do it, whether or not deserve this or not? Well, I'm going to prove to you by making a good point, because I'm not going to let anyone disrespect me in my own home. And she pulls out like the spring-loaded gun, which I was like, interesting. I completely let her slip my mind. I was like, right, she hasn't utilized that yet. It's like, well, utilize it in this moment to make a powerful and poignant point. So that kind of cements things in that capacity. So it's like, right, you might not want a woman to lead charge, but it's like, right, I'm going to do a lot for us, and I'm going to need each and every one of yours help to make this a reality. Atoy and the woman she's got under her are the ones looking after Assam, because the Hop Way have abandoned him, because it's like, right, this was all Father June's idea, and young June's like, right, I'm the one that told you we shouldn't even go in for this, and he's like, yeah, but you're the one that told me Assam would have won. First and foremost, Assam is the best fighter you got. No one else, like, with Bolo dead, Bolo was your go-to guy. Like, who would you have gotten to fight that fight anyway? Like, none of them would have won against Leong Assam is the only one that had the best chance, and he still lost. But that's why I'm like, shut up, like, you know. And so it's like, right, because Assam lost, it's like, right, he's nothing to us. It's like, but he fought for us. You could tell like Young-Jun was still sticking up for him, and they actually had this really beautiful moment later on where it's like, right, I try to convince my father, but he won't listen. It's like, yeah, you're out of the hop way. I mean, that's the only way in and out, you know. It's like, right, you got jumped in, and I guess this was almost like you're getting jumped out, but. You know, it's like you can't join any other tong, so it's not like he could go to the, I mean, he could, but that'd be no issue. For one, I don't know if his sister would even want him part of the Long Z. Could be the direction that story goes, I don't know, but I don't see her necessarily welcoming him amongst the Long Z, but maybe. Now that he's free of the Hopway, he could, but I don't know if that's even the direction he's going to, because he doesn't know what he's going to do, what he's going to fight for, what he's going to be all about. And so... It complicate things a little less in that degree and capacity, because it's like, right, he'd have a bounty on his head, and it's like, yeah, if we ever cross paths, I'd have to kill you. But now, because you're no longer part of the Hopway, I can no longer. I think it's like, if someone outside of the Hopway you can communicate with, but the problem is if you're former Hopway, if you were kicked out and disowned, you're dead to them, so they can't speak to you anymore. And for June, you could tell it cuts him deep, him being like, yo, remember when we went to Grass Valley? Yeah, I think about it all the time. He's like, we should have never come back. That was the episode 5 situation. It's like when they went to go get that, was smuggling the gold for Father June. But it's like, we should have never come back, you know. But the only reason why he did is because he has nothing else outside of the Hopway and his father, you know. So that's why but you could tell it bothered him so much, because it's like, because Assam isn't just like, I think Assam became his best friend, and it's like he got closer to Assam than anyone else in the Hopway. It's like, you are legitimately even more my brother than anyone else, and now I kind of have to say goodbye to you. I have to pretend basically you're dead. So it sucks that things kind of came and turned down that way. And it's like, just wishes that he could go back in time and, you know, change things, because like I said, he lost a brother in this whole ordeal. So, and at the same time that's all happening, like, you have Assam thinking about the past, like, obviously his father being ashamed of him, because he's like, because I guess that's the reason why Assam got into so many fights when he was younger, is because his grandfather passed away, and he cared a lot about his grandfather, because his grandfather passed away when he was like 13, and I think he lived on his grandfather's stories and was really close to him, and so he was angry and he lashed out like anyone does. Like, that's how some people process their grief. And he would get in fights and get beat up, but his dad's like, oh, your grandfather would be so ashamed of you. Now I have no one to work the fields because you went to go off and do something stupid. But he's like, do you even know why I went to go fight in the first place? I don't know if that had any correlation with maybe like him having a white grandfather. Like, I don't know if that played a part, and maybe he was kind of trying to defend the family because of that. But I guess in Zhao Jing's mind, the way she could help her brother, it's like, right, if I help you become a better fighter, maybe I'd never have to worry about you getting hurt anymore. But she never knew, like, oh, now that he got introduced to his Shifu, that he would leave. And it's like, oh, I'll come back every month. I guess it was part of his training or whatever. But we see how, like, I think that in its own way was the beginning of the end for what they're, so, you know, it's like things kind of eventually spiral, because I think it didn't do anything to resolve a lot of, maybe not necessarily the emptiness, but maybe a lot of that, maybe a combination of maybe some emptiness and anger that Assam felt that he never was able to kind of properly deal with. And maybe that's why he got in so many fights later on still, and that led to the whole Zhao Jing getting married to, what was it, Sun Yang, and everything. So I was about to say, did we ever find out, like, is their father still alive or not? Maybe he died at some point in time. We know Sun Yang is dead. We know, I guess, they made it sound like maybe it was just natural causes, but I wonder, did he, or did Assam have, I feel like he would have probably mentioned it by now if he had something to do with the guy's death. But now it's like, right, I can come back and bring you home because you're running away from him. You have no reason to stay away anymore. But obviously she found a new home here, and what that all means. I even, thought it was really interesting too. Obviously, Penelope showing up, and Atoy knowing, like, oh, aren't you the Mayor Blake's wife? And she's like, yes. It's like, well, Penelope doesn't know that he comes to that brothel. That's why Atoy was making a point of it. Well, I think it's one. It's like, I don't know if that's supposed to be like her kind of like, oh, both of you kind of have an Asian thing. It's like, right, he comes here for fun. But it isn't just, I mean, it's for men and women, from what we've seen. And here you are coming to visit Assam, and it's just her touching his hand, just seeing, she just wanted to know he was going to be okay. And even saying, I miss you, so. And Assam knows she visited because he opened his eyes. Like, I was hoping he would know that. Because he probably didn't notice her during the fight with everything going on. But knowing that, hey, she is still thinking about you. She still cares about you. I think that's kind of important. So we'll see where things kind of go on that front. Other elements to this whole situation is Penelope's dad's got, hired Leary's people and stuff like that. And, they're putting them to work. Everything's working out until Buckley shows up and is like, actually, someone else put a bid on it and was like, oh, they're actually underpricing you. It was like, how are they able to cut their cost back that much? They're going to be using the same steel as me. Because it's like, right, they must be using cheaper, materials. It's like, no, same materials as you. Then it's like, right, the Chinese labor. And then immediately I'm like, who was it? I was like, there's no way it's Toy and like her guy Patterson. It's like, can't be, right? But it's like, no, it's not. Like, Buckley lied just to undercut everything for, so that there's less money going towards Penelope's dad and kind of screwing him over in that way. And it's because it's like, right, I have to cover you on so many bases, Mr. Mayor. So yes, I'm not going to tell you everything, but I have to pull you out of whorehouses. Your political power is kind of going down the drain. This is for the greater mission of what we're trying to accomplish. So I was able to cut costs, and it's kind of like what you don't even pay attention to what your money situation is. So if there's a certain, if the cost of all this isn't below a certain amount, it's going to fall back on you. So, but he was such a dick to Buckley, being like, yo, I'm gonna drink your drink, and also let me know in advance when you do anything. And he's just like, yes, sir, apologies. He balled up his fist. It's like he has to placate the mayor so much, but it's like you're a pawn in all this. You are a bottom feeder in all of this. I'm the one with all the real plans. Like, you would honestly be nothing without me. I'm the one that made all this happen for you. So Buckley's going to pop off on the mayor at one point in time. The moment he's no longer necessary, or when it benefits him the most, he's most likely probably going to end up killing Mayor Blake. Like, it'll be kind of no tears shed, because I'm sure Penelope would enjoy that and be finally free of him, and everything. So it'll be interesting to see what Buckley's machinations, what they kind of take him next episode. But obviously, back to the Chinatown squad, who's looking into these murders, because it's like, okay, so they went to Chow. Chow can't point them in any particular direction, because it's like, right, I don't sell swords. Probably makes sense. Like, the sword is probably like a heirloom of Atoy's, so she probably brought it with her when she came to China. It's like, I mean, not unless it's a thing before even Chow came into the picture, so she might, I gotta assume it's a family heirloom type of situation, because Chow's like, right, only thing we sell is hatchets, guns. We sell everything else, but no one uses swords. So, and it makes me wonder, does Chow know it is Atoy that's behind these? Once again, no one's going to think much of it, but that's also the point. That's why Atoy is able to slip through the cracks, because, for one, she's a madam, and no one's going to think, for one, a woman, but let alone a madam, is going to be the one responsible for these murders. But then you also got Mai Ling doing her thing, now leader of one of the large tongs here, so. But they're nowhere closer to really finding out. So Lee and Bill go their separate ways, and then Lee gets jumped, which he handles himself pretty well. He's, not a fighter. Because I even love Bill even brought it up this episode. He's like, yo, if, I don't know what kind of boxing this is. He's like, but if everyone in Chinatown knew this, we'd be all pretty damn screwed. Still, Lee didn't go down like a punk. He fought hard, but the leader of the Feng Kai ended up stepping in and beating the crap out. Now that's the best case scenario, because he could have easily gotten killed. I'm worried. I'm like, well, they've done a lot to set up. I was about to say they've done a lot to set up Lee's character, so there's no way they're going to kill him all. But I mean, it's like, well, we've gotten multiple episodes with Lee and just kind of gotten his backstory. But I was like, I was about to say, well, we got Bolo's backstory, and he had a couple episodes and he still got killed, you know. So, but Lee's circumstances is still ever present, but that still doesn't mean his story could end up getting cut short. But yeah, it's like the Fungi did that to make a point to Bill. It's like, all right, we can't quite get to you, so like, let's get it to your partner to make a point. It's like, right, you're in this town, we can get, as long as you're here, we can get to you at any point in time. I doubt that was Long Z sanction, but that's going to be an issue because that's a cop they attacked. Now, Lee Young had already talked about it last episode about maybe we should distance ourselves from the Fungi. Now it's like this is going to blow back on you because now you're bringing like the force of like the police here. Like that's unnecessary heat with everything going on. So I don't know if My Ling's going to serve the Fungi up on a platter to them. Bill's also going to beat himself up because he promised he was going to fix this. And now it's like, cool, your partner who you both have your back and forth, but you do like Lee. Which I think it was kind of interesting where he's like, oh, God must be punishing me, Lee, because he brought you into my life. It's like, he's not punishing you. It's like, how you know? It's like, well, he's not up there. It's like, interesting. That probably is a lot for, it's like, right, you are probably considering everything you've kind of experienced, why you probably would be an atheist. But I think, at this time, and, Bill being an Irishman at this time, like, I think that's probably like that's kind of a little... I don't know. I'm curious where Bill stands on it. He might be talking about that just because it's like, yeah, I'm an Irish, I'm Catholic, like I have to talk about, but I don't know if like he believes. So, but I'm so curious to see what the aftermath of this is, like specifically how the Long Z are going to respond, because the Fungi kind of do their own thing. Yes, this is about their debt, but you're in my you work under me right now, so what you do is a reflection on us. So how My Ling handles this, like I said, I'm sure it's going to become a much bigger issue because it's like, cool, he's not dead, but this might also help Atoy in the long run, might put a little blame towards the Fungi. But to be fair, they didn't disembowel Lee. But to be fair, none of the other people were cops. But two of them were like significant people, so I don't know. We'll ultimately have to wait to see how that plays out in the next episode. Next episode being the season finale. So I'm so curious to see what ends up happening and how they cap off the season. Obviously, afterwards, I'm going to jump right into season 2. So, but really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.